And welcome to Best Girl Speaks. Today is Wednesday, January 22nd, and this is episode 263. I'm Amy Beth, also known as the Fat Squirrel on Ravelry and the Fat SQRRL on Instagram. I apologize, I tend to rush through that part because I just feel like we all know each other and it feels silly to introduce myself each time, but then I forget there are actually new people occasionally, so hi. Welcome. I apologize that I tend to rush through that stuff. I forget that we've just not all been hanging out for 6 years now. Thank you. How are you? Are you doing well? Whoa. Right? Craziness. This week's podcast will contain prizes for patrons of the podcast. It'll contain spinning, crochet, knitting, food shenanigans. I think that's all. Yes, that's all. That's a lot, right? We should totally get into it. What else does it contain? Some chai, because let me just discuss. I used to have a milk frother that was very weak and could really only froth cold milk, and what's the point of that? I've just found out that the milk frother on my coffee machine, actually, I just hadn't even tried it because I was like, whatever. No, it's a different beast altogether. And so now I'm consuming too much dairy because it's super fun to froth your own milk. I can't help it. I'm just out of control. The universe is going to soon make me lactose intolerant because it just likes to, although my husband is lactose intolerant and we have lactose intolerant milk, it still works with that. How do I know? Because we were almost out of regular milk because I've skewed our whole milk buying ratios with my milk frothing. So never mind, universe. You gave me cancer. You're not allowed to make me lactose intolerant too. Settle down, universe. But thank you in all the ways. Speaking of cancer, I went to my oncologist and I got the all clear, right? I'm just on observation. I didn't think it was going to be possible, but I am so lucky and so fortunate. So thank you all for your continued support and well wishes and positive vibes and prayers and good general mojo that you've pushed my way. I have every confidence that that is a large part of why I got such a good outcome. But yeah, I'm totally just on observation. I go to the oncologist 4 times a year. She's got blood work, and so we'll have comparisons to things that are happening. And yeah, right? I'm going to have genetic counseling done. But yeah, other than that, right? I just remembered that I forgot to take off this ratty nail polish. I polish my nails twice a year. I don't know what happens. I just get there's a perfect storm of all of my fingernails being a nice lovely length at the same time, which happens probably twice a year, which is why I probably paint my nails twice a year. But that happened, and I also have time. So that happened, but then 2 days later I broke the nail and then they all came off and now they're just this hot mess. But then I kind of like the hot mess. I'm pretending to be my high school wasn't goth self time period, and I just kind of enjoy my ratty fingernail polish that's totally chipping off. I don't know, I kind of still like it. So I'm glad I didn't take it off. But so yeah, can you believe that crazy good news? Thank you all so much. Speaking of thank yous, let's just get into prizes, right? So I have tea towels. I'm going to give you 4 prizes for the folks who contributed to the podcast in the 4th quarter of 2019, because now that's over because it's 2020. So I have tea towels for all of you that I'm just going to send. They're all the same, so there's no choosing. But if you would, please email me or Ravelry message me your address. A few of you, I have your address, I think, from a past purchase, but I don't know, maybe it's changed since then. Either way, it's just a good idea to send me your actual human name and your actual human address, right? You can send that to me either at the contact site, the contact information on my site. Suddenly I'm having a hot flash. Yes, I am. You can send it to me at fatsquirrelfibers@gmail.com. You can send it to me on Ravelry. I'm the Fat Squirrel. You can send it to me on Instagram. I'm the Fats SQRRL. So the first winner is the winner of this awesome donation from Maritime Fibers. I don't usually take your donations for prizes because my life is crazy and it stresses me out. But this one came at a perfect time. So look at that. You get an extra prize, first place winner. If you don't want this, just tell me and I'll send it on to the next person. So the first winner is Bill S. of Indiana. That's right. My own home state here. Bill S. of Indiana. Send me an information. So the other prizes that will receive a tea towel when I get your human name and address. Sally C. of Wisconsin. Paula M. You have a Hotmail address, but I'm not sure where you are. I definitely need your address. Jessica L. of Maryland. And Alex X. who has a TARDIS email address. I definitely need your human address. Oh my gosh. You all want a prize. Are you one of those people? Send me your information. Everybody else, send out big thank yous. If you'd like to contribute to the podcast with your real live human dollars, you can find the information on the drop down of the YouTube under Squirrel Support. You can become a patron at Patreon. You can just send a Ko-Fi, just buy me coffee. You can make a PayPal donation. It's all up to you. And I appreciate all of your human faces. I need to apologize because last quarter I forgot to put you on the credits. I had written all of these, if you donate over a certain amount, I put your name on the credits at the end of the podcast. And I totally forgot last year. I wrote it, or last year. Well, yeah, last year. But last time, I totally wrote your names down just like I did this time to put them in, and I totally forgot. I'm sorry. I'm horribly human. It's true. But thank you. Thank you so much. What else do we need to talk about? Oh my gosh. Gratitude. A go-go, quite frankly. What else? Oh, we should talk about... Okay, so we don't have... I'm just going to be honest. There are zero shenanigans. Because it's cold, and I'm getting over a cold. If you can see, my nose is a little bit red and scary, probably. Maybe I can get that out in editing to spare you. Oh my gosh. I put my old lady night cream on the other night. It has retinol. And so I put it on, and I forgot that my nose was raw. And I like laid down and suddenly was like, oh my gosh, my nose. Pro tip. When you have a cold, don't put your old lady retinol night cream on. Don't do it. Anyway. But then, so I have not left. So I've got a lot of knitting to show you and some spinning too, because yeah, I've just not, and I'm going to be honest with you. I have enjoyed not doing anything so much. I know you can understand that. I feel bad because my child is probably like ready to climb the walls. Really, she's not, but do you know what I mean? Like, she's actually not. She's probably totally fine watching YouTube and interfacing with her friends. But I feel bad. Like, I feel like I've neglected my mothering duties because, like, but it's been so pleasant. I actually have a little bit of tendonitis in my elbow because I've been able to get some knitting done. I reorganized the yarn stash. That was fun. So many chances to be thankful in there as well because folks have sent things on, and so it was so fun to organize that, and I got to do it with gratitude. Ugh, just rolling in this new year so hard. Not getting a whole lot done outside my house, but whatever. That's fine with me. Oh my gosh. Okay, so, because now it's also sumo season. So after my oncologist appointment, I don't usually go to Kroger. The Kroger that's near my house is like kind of sketchy and is for some reason overwhelming to me. Like the ratio of like the shelf height to the ceiling height is not appropriate for me, and it freaks me out. I have issues, y'all. Totally. 100%. But I was in search of the Sumos and they didn't have them at my regular grocery store. And so I checked the online tool that Kroger has where you can like shop online, and they said they had them. So after my oncologist appointment and intense celebration, I went to the fancy Kroger that's down that way and stocked up on some Sumos. And it was so exciting. I bought so much citrus. So I bought the Sumos. I don't think they're quite at peak yet. I'm going to just be honest. I don't think they're quite at peak, or maybe it's just not as amazing a year yet, but they are still very good. Do you know what this is? Their brand is called Sumo Citrus. It's some sort of like amazing, it's not a honey bell. It's not a, what are the other ones? There's another name, and they have the same shape. They're like an orange, but like with a nipple on top. I've tried all of the other things, and they're not the same as the Sumo. The Sumo is king. For me, personally. But I have friends who live in Florida, and they totally went honey bell picking like it was apple picking. And I had envy. I was like, I think those would be my favorite oranges if I got to pick oranges. Anyway. Right? How fun would that be? It's a different world. Anyway. What was I talking about? Oh, so those were amazing. But then I tried the Pomelo. Have you tried that thing? It's like this giant. Okay, it's like this giant. And the rind is fully like that thick. Like you need to be a composter. Like to not have guilt about consuming that citrus fruit. Like you need to compost. It's like a pineapple where you're like, can I make soup out of this at the end? Because it's too much waste. So delicious, y'all. It's giant. It's like mine were $1.99. They're huge. They're like greenish to yellowish. Again, enormous rind. On par with like a pomegranate in terms of like work of getting to the fruit return. And it is a similar return, like where you're like, okay, this is actually totally worth this work, right? Also, I just kind of like the tradition of like wintertime being the time, like, I don't know if it happened when you were a kid, but when I was a kid, it was the time your parent, like my mom would buy the bulk nuts, like the nuts in the shell. And like we totally had like a little like wooden bowl that had a place for a nutcracker and like little nut picks. And like you would put the nuts in the bowl, and like that was like a pastime. Would be to I sound so old, don't I? I'm 100 million years old. It was like part of the winter pastime was like cracking these nuts and like, and I remember being like, as a kid, I did not care for nuts that much. So it was just like, why are people doing this? But now I'm feeling it. Like maybe next year I'm going to try to find some bulk nuts and just like fully embrace. It's really enjoyable. So it's got this huge rind you have to take off. But the fruit itself is still big. I would say the fruit is probably like grapefruit size. Like the fruit, once you get the rind off, is still, you know, it's still big. And it has like super tough, like the sectioning. Like you definitely do not want to eat the film that's around each section because it's like, it's wicked tough. But, oh, so delicious. Oh, I took a picture of it. It's so pretty too, like much like the pomegranate. When you get it open, you're just like, oh, this is gorgeous. And then so delicious. I will confess, I have not yet come into the age where I enjoy a grapefruit. I was told that maybe I'm not eating them correctly, that maybe I also need to not eat that I need to section them. And so I got one to try. I just haven't done it yet. Oh, I deleted it because I'm just like an animal. Oh, why did I delete that picture? Anyway, so it's much like that. You have to take this section, and then it's just like it's like the gorgeousness of like the inside of the orange, like all the little like vessels of juice just like stacked up on each other, and it's like pearlescent and gorgeous. But each section is like twice as big as the orange section, so it looks even more like lush and bountiful. And then it's also delicious. It's like some sort of mild grapefruit. It has we've only had two. One was much more acidic than the other, so I'm not sure what's the typical thing, but either way, enjoyable. Even my child liked it. She's not a huge fan of anything because she's 13, yo. So good. And just gorgeous. Anyway, that's my citrus. What else? Okay, the other thing I needed to tell you about food-wise. Oh, so we were at I was at the Kroger. I say we. It was me. I was at the fancy Kroger, and they had those like stir-fry kits in the like fresh produce section. And I tried the curry one. It's totally good. Surprisingly good. So I'm a fan of that. What? And on the bottom it says starring Brussels sprouts and kale, which made me very happy. I'm just gonna be honest with you. It was so delicious. I had that for lunch the other day. It was such a treat. It was crunchy. It had just a little bit of spice to it, which I'm gonna be honest with you, I was surprised about because usually like that stuff is way too mild. But it had a little heat to it. It was very enjoyable. It was the perfect amount for me to eat all of it. I think it's 3 servings. It's all vegetables. And you know, it's winter. It's like time to try to get as many vegetables into your system as possible. Right? And I've got a cold. I got to fight this stuff off. I need all the vegetables. It's delicious. Another way to get vegetables into me secretly. Actually, I did this a few weeks ago, but I've made it again. It's still delicious. I've never cooked with nutritional yeast. But I found a recipe for cauliflower soup that involved nutritional yeast. What is that revelation? Where have I been for 40 years? Delicious. It was super simple too. I'll try to link, let me just write that down. I'll try to link the recipe if I can find it again. Hopefully I can. But it was super easy. It was just like cut up some carrots and some celery and some onions. You know, do the soup thing. Warm those up, soften them up. And then it was half a cup of cauliflower cooked in a broth. I used this like vegan chicken, like not chicken broth, and it was delicious. So you cook and then you add like a 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast at the end and then puree to your desired consistency. Delicious. I'm very excited about that. Have you tried that? It was so good. Such a treat. I don't know that I can convince any of my family to eat it. I might try. That's probably pushing it. But whatever. I can have it for my lunch. Get some veggies in. Delicious. Anyway. What is going on with my hair? It looks a little stringy. Whatever. We're friends. It is stringy. Oh, I'm wearing my Hansel, right? By Gudrun Johnston. I apologize. Last time I said my hat was by Isolde and it was by Gudrun. Thank you so much for correcting me. So this is the Hansel shawl. It's a square hat. It's very traditional. You knit the middle and garter and then you put some feather and fan on the edge and some edging, and I highly enjoy it. It's knit with Brooklyn Tweed Loft. Amazing for the winter because I don't know if it's because I'm fat and so my shoulders are wider. Well, not actually, my shoulders are not wider, but my arms, like past my shoulders, is wider because you start getting my Midwestern lady arms and my boobs, and so like everything just gets this way or more. But because of that, I'm actually quite pleased. It pushes the shawl up, and because it's super lightweight, it just kind of stays in this little like shawl collar action thing back here. And it's so pleasant. Keeps you perfectly warm along your neck. And then when you're watching television at night, you can just kind of like woof up into it if you need to. It's perfect. Love it. I don't really wear it out of the house very much, but I love it for in the house. It's definitely like my number one go-to when I need that little extra layer in the evening times. Or when I want to hide my very basic thermal Hindley. Because I'm fancy for y'all, right? Fancy. Anyway, I knit that last year, and I really do enjoy it so much. It's very lovely. Let's talk about knitting. Let's talk about crochet first, maybe. I made some squares. Totally did it. I have another one somewhere. Oh my goodness, right? I made some squares, y'all. I don't think I showed you these last time, but if I did, you know, I'm not trying to cheat. So this one is like some yarn held double, some yarn held double. Isn't that pretty? Right? Some wackadoodle yarn I found. I think this is totally Lion Brand Fisherman yarn, which by the way is a great yarn. I wish they had gray. Just gonna say it. They have browns and creams. I wish they had gray. Anyway, so this is some like wackadoodle fisherman's yarn that I found that I dyed like when Tobo was wee. Like when she was like 3 or 4. And I just found it randomly in a bin and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna make a square of that. Totally did it. Some more yarn held. Right? That's fingering with a single. So that's some fingering weight yarn doubled up. Fingering weight yarn doubled up. Some hand spun. What? That's the end of the skein. You're like, dude. Really though, there were so many of that skein. And some more hand spun. A different yarn. Ooh, look at that one. Right? So pretty. And some more hand spun. That one looks small. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know, maybe just the one behind it was extra. Well, the one behind it was extra beefy. Yeah, it is a little small. I think I need to do another round on that one. Oopsie. I'll put that one aside. Let me just discuss though, like not only is it super fun to use the hand spun for those granny squares, because I have a lot of like skeins that I'm like, I do not need another shawl. I'm flush. But at the same time, so now that though that I'm knitting, crocheting with it, I'm like, okay, but I do need another shawl. Because it's so pretty. I'm like, oh, what? Like, I didn't know I loved that much. It's just been sitting like balled up because I think I started a project with it and then just like it wasn't right or something. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to knit with this stuff more because it's really gorgeous. Not to toot my horn, but toot toot. I need to put that one aside though, really though, so I can make it bigger. Toot toot, y'all. Right. Just saying. And then spinning. Okay, so I've had this on the, whoa! I've had this on the wheel forever. It was 6 ounces of Cheviot. Okay, that's how the British say it. I can't not say it that way now. Cheviot? Is that how we say it in America? But I'm just going to tell you, I've been listening to an Irish audiobook and then I watched too much. Okay, confession. I have the BritBox subscription on Amazon. This might be part of the reason I have tendonitis in my elbow. I have the BritBox subscription on Amazon. It's like $5 a month. I don't keep it all year. It's super easy to cancel. I'm not advertising for it, but clearly I am. Oh my gosh. They have this stupid farming show. It's called Farm Life. I think that's what it's called. Let me just double check. Yeah, Farm Life Scotland. Watched the whole thing. Oh no, there's another season! They didn't tell me there was another season! Well, now there's going to be next week. It's called The Farming Life. This Farming Life. I watched the entire first season. Oh my gosh, there's 3 seasons! Oh, this is terrible news. I'm going to have this fingering weight sweater done the next time we talk. No, I'm not. I got things to do. Oh no, there's 3 seasons! Anyway, it's called This Farming Life, and it's Scottish farmers. I'm 100% in. They all have at least a sheep. You know? I'm there. So between listening to all the Scottish farmers and then I was listening to an audiobook that was with Irish accents, I'm trying not to say the wrong words. Like my brain is now confused. And also, like, come on. It's cuter to say you can than you know. It's so much cuter. Anyway, I'm trying not to pretend I'm somebody that I'm not. But I want to be somebody I'm not, so I might accidentally pretend. That came from Cheviot. I'm like, where did that rant come from? Okay, so it was 6 ounces of Cheviot, and it was 6 1-ounce bumps, 6 1-ounce strips of fiber. And they were all of these like oranges, and it kind of went from almost like a butter to like red, like salmon-y red. And so I just decided that I would do a 3-ply. So I did 2 little bumps on each 3-ply. So I'll have very fraternal socks. You can probably see, yeah. So like this is one section and this is the other. So yeah, I'm excited about those. And so it's 6 ounces. I got something, I don't think it was actually quite 6 ounces. I think I lost part of a bobbin. Well, I didn't lose part of the bobbin. I think I lost part of the fiber to somebody named GUS who is sleeping very innocently over there. It's not his fault entirely. I mean, come on. It's been on the wheel for, it's definitely been on the wheel since at least SSK last year. So it's been on the wheel for like 7 months. Oh man, ridiculous. Whatever. So, but I got 435 yards, and it's like a sport, I would say. A heavy fingering to it's a sport. So I'm excited to make socks with those. Hooray, hooray. And then I was just like, whoa, get things done. Let's finish some stuff. So then I started this 4-ounce bump of Three Waters Farm mixed BFL in the Walk in the Mist colorway. And I just spun it super fast and super fluffy. It's 164 yards. And it's just 4 ounces. So it's definitely like a bulky. And at first I thought, oh, I didn't ply it enough, but I think so. I think it's good. Sometimes I love when they're super tightly plied, but I think I love the way they look in the skein, but then sometimes I don't like to knit with them when they're really tightly plied because they want to kink up on themselves. But anyway, it's super squishy and super fluffy, and I'm quite pleased with it. Three Waters Farm fiber is always a treat. I didn't say it, I'm sorry. This is from Banshee, Banshee, and I just got it on Etsy. I didn't know anything about them, but this was very well prepared. It was very nicely dyed. No issues at all. And of course, Three Waters Farm is always lovely. So yay, spinning, y'all. So then let's talk about knitting. Finished objects. What? It's true. I finished my rye socks. So these are they're really not rye socks, but rye socks is what they're based on, which is by Tin Can Knits. And it's a worsted, there's also a rye light. So the rye is for worsted weight socks. The rye light is for, I believe is for fingering weight loss socks. And at least the rye is free, right? It's not exactly what they did, but you know, again, based on. I wasn't sure that I would have enough yarn because of the requirements listed. So I thought I would do a contrasting heel and toe, but I would have had plenty. Look at how much I have left. This is the Briggs & Little Tuffy. So it's an 80% wool, 20% nylon, I think. And I got that from Maritime Family Fibers. They're a U.S. distributor. So I would have had plenty if I had done the whole pair in the speckle. But it's cute with the contrast, right? Super cute. And I didn't want them very long because they are house socks for me. Some folks use these as their boot socks, but I would have to have my boots like 2 sizes too big for them to fit in there with my fat little feet. But anyway, they're super cute, very enjoyable. Things I did differently. The Tin Can Knits is a cuff down with a traditional heel, flap, and gusset. I did mine toe up with an afterthought heel, again, mostly because I was not sure if I would have enough yarn. And if you're not sure you have enough yarn, toe up is a great way to go because you can just knit till half of your yarn is gone. Of course, when I got this far, I realized I did not need to have contrasting, but I was already committed. And so now I have cute little socks, which I will maybe be able to wear one day. Menopause. I'm talking to you. And then I also finished, this is my, it's the June one, right? Yes, this is the June hat by Meghan Kelly, and it is a free pattern. It is knit with Shelter in Blanket Fort and Plume. I did make mine longer. It is knit just as like a tradition, as a regular shape, but I do love a slouchy hat ever so much. So I knit mine tonight. I think the pattern is knit to 6 inches before you start the crown. I could be wrong. And I knit mine to 9 because that's what the Ricky hat is, and it's my favorite slouchy hat. Isn't it super cute? Right. So I knit mine inside out because, as you can see, it is knit. This is how it should be knit. Just knit from the bottom up, and it should be knit. So if you knit it as the pattern suggests, you purl 10, knit 1 around, and then you purl 10, slip 1 with the other color. But purling in the round is against my religion, so I knit mine inside out. I get a couple questions every time I say something about purling. When you knit, I knit continental, and purling takes significantly longer and is a slightly more awkward motion. It's not as rhythmic and pleasing as it is to knit, and that's the only reason. I'm not anti-purling. It's just I don't like to do it myself. So I knit mine this way. So I basically knit 10, slip 1. So if I'm knitting in the dark purple, I knit 10, purl 1 around, and then I switch to the light purple and I knit 10, slip 1 with the yarn in front versus in the back, like if you're doing it correctly. So because of that, I have a few little blips that I did not notice until I was done. But now I'm kind of not sad about it because look, see right there. So there I purled some stitches just randomly for funsies. But now I'm actually really happy about it because they're in the back, or I can just make that the back if they weren't. And so it's so much easier to tell where my back of my hat is. Because usually I'm like looking at the brim. This one is easy because it's striped, you can tell. But you know, usually I'm like, and I usually have to go around like twice before I can find it. Like, oh, okay, there it is. So now I totally dig this like whoops in the back that I can very easily see. And be like, oh, that's the back. Bam. So yeah, I don't know, just same row, same place, 2 places, 2 times. Weird, right? Weird. I don't know how it happened. Whatever. So, because of that, my top looks a little bit less than beautiful because I had to purl 2 through the back loop instead of just like knitting 2 together or whatever it was. I can't remember. So they kind of like tilt just a little bit because purling through the back loop is always weird. But I'm fine with it, quite frankly. So you can see it's just a little bit of a, it kind of just barely starts to tilt. But I mean, you wouldn't have noticed until I told you, unless you were like looking at it like this. But A, it's behind me. I don't know who's behind me. I don't care. B, it doesn't really matter anyway. Okay. Okay. It's almost gone. Ooh, it's like very peppery at the end. Woo. Okay. So that's finished stuff. Now what do I have? Okay. That. I have this. Okay, so I'm going to show you the thing that I've already showed you before. Maybe. You know, I'm a bag maker. You'd think I'd have all my projects in separate bags. No. Let's not be silly. So here is my Sammal. Sammal, Sammal sweater by Joji Locatelli. It is knit in Brooklyn Tweed Loft in the Hayloft colorway. Right, okay. I thought that was going to be so dramatic as a reveal. It didn't look like much at all, did it? I separated for the sleeves. I had to put it on smaller needles too because my needle broke. My Child Goo interchangeables, I'm on a US 1.5. So I'm on the minis and I totally broke the needle like last night. And I was like, oh. But here's my marker from last time we podcasted. So I did this much on a fingering weight sweater with the sleeves for a fat lady. Just saying, that's impressive to me. Sorry, there's a school bus and the dogs are confused. That's not Tova. It's not Tova. Don't worry, Gus. So anyway, I'm pretty impressed with myself. It's gorgeous. It is so gorgeous. Thanks, Espacio. Is it Espacio? Is that right? I'm a mess. So anyway, it's so gorgeous. The yarn was gifted to me because I'm a very lucky human being. Pattern, very enjoyable. And let me just discuss. Yay, Joji. The arm is like appropriate to my arm size. That never happens. I think the sleeve circumference on the largest size is 22 3/4 inches. What? For a 56-inch sweater, that never happens. I always have to make the sleeve way bigger. And this time I didn't have to. Thanks, Joji. Gosh, so excited about that. Amazing. So that's very enjoyable. Okay, then what else am I knitting on? Well, let me discuss. So I cast on the 1898 hat by Kristine Byrnes, Byrnes, in Barret wools, Wisconsin woolen, in the Hazelnut. This is worsted weight. So this is the one that's like this. So you get the double, it's garter. You knit garter side to side for the brim. And then you pick up the top. So you have a double garter stitch brim. And let me just discuss. Double garter stitch in Wisconsin woolen is quadruple squishy. It's true. It's exponentially squishy. It's so squishy. So this yarn was also gifted to me. It's ridiculous. Thanks, Amber. Super duper squishy and amazing. So this is a great time to talk about this. I had a friend who asked me the other day, I love the Barret, right? I love the Barret wool in Wisconsin. I also love the Brooklyn Tweed Loft. And she was like, well, why would you choose the Loft over the Wisconsin woolen? So let's talk about it. This is unplanned. I am not sponsored by either of these companies. Let's get all that out of the way. So why would I choose one or the other over the other? I was gifted this sweater's worth of Loft. That was the choosing factor. Because for me, a sweater out of the Brooklyn Tweed is a little bit more than I'm willing to spend. But the Wisconsin woolen, especially the fingering weight, makes it a pretty affordable sweater for me. Now, it was pointed out to me that somebody else in the conversation was like, well, when I chose the Brooklyn Tweed over the Wisconsin woolen, my sweater was only going to be, it was like $20 or $30 difference, I think she said. She's a much smaller human being. And so that price difference is definitely dependent on your size. And so price is part of the choice. Like, especially because I knit for the podcast, like I knit more than I really need to, in terms of like clothing myself and my family. I certainly don't think that the Brooklyn Tweed is too expensive for a sweater in general. That's not how I feel at all. Because, you know, if I were not knitting for the podcast, I might knit one sweater a year, or I might, that's not true. But I have gone through periods in my life where I have not been knitting a lot. And so, you know, if I'm knitting a fingering weight sweater and I'm just knitting an hour here or there because my schedule is different, then it's definitely worth that. Like, definitely. Like, if I, even with my same financial situation, if I were just going to knit less, that would be a totally wonderful investment, because I'm knitting that on US 1.5s because I want a firmer texture for durability. I'll come back to that in a second. It is a pleasure. I mean, I at one point was like at 500 stitches or something with my sleeves and my body. Still a pleasure with this broken rib kind of stitch-ish, where every other row is knit one, purl one. Still a pleasure. It is a highly pleasant yarn to knit with. That said, so is the Barret. Like, it's still this totally enjoyable process. But so durability. Now, I don't have hard facts on this at all because I've never knit a garment in the loft or the shelter. I imagine it is slightly less durable than the Wisconsin woolen. They are both woolen spun, but the Wisconsin wool is a little bit stronger. Just like this way. That doesn't mean that it's a stronger yarn, because we know that low piece sweaters last forever, and that is a yarn that you can easily pull apart. So that's not the deciding factor of why I think that Wisconsin is slightly more durable. That said, the Lopi is knit with a very long a longer staple. It's spun with a longer staple wool. The Loft is Tarhi Columbia, which is a little bit shorter. It's gorgeous and amazing and wonderful. But with that looser ply and then the looser ply, or the looser single structure, because that's why it's so airy and gorgeous, I think it's a little bit less durable. I just had to stop to look. The Barret is merino and Corriedale. Excuse me. So it's not like wildly different in terms of like the ply length. But it definitely has a very different structure to the yarn, which I think makes it a little bit more durable. But other reasons you might choose one over the other. So price is one thing. The Wisconsin woolen is much more affordable. Durability is a reason to be aware of one versus the other. Availability, because Susan's yarn is spun. Harrisville's a small mill as well, but the Barret wool's Wisconsin woolen is not always in stock. It sometimes goes out of stock. It's a smaller batch and they just have more difficulty with supply chain and what have you. So it's like a jump when you can get it kind of a yarn. So that's something, if you want to knit a sweater and the wool's not there, then that's a reason maybe to buy one over the other. And then the other reason I would say is color. In this way, the Loft or the shelter definitely wins. I mean, this is a gorgeous color, and all of Susan's colors are gorgeous, but the Loft has a lot more shades. I think there's like 22 or 20. There's a lot of shades of the Brooklyn Tweed in the woolens. And they also have a more, they're a dyed in the wool. I'm assuming, this is a big assumption, I'm assuming that Susan's yarns are dyed after, or if they're not, if they are dyed in the wool, they use a consistent dye process versus the Wisconsin, the shelter, which has all of the different colors. So, there's much more, there's heathering and flecking and stuff in the Brooklyn Tweeds. Some people like that, some people don't. Like, my husband would not be okay. Like, he would see that orange and have to pick it out. It would drive him crazy, probably. But it's to me, I love that, and it makes it even more joyful to work with when you have those little pops of color and things that show up and keep you moving. So, yeah. So those are some differences. Softness is not a factor. They're both lovely. They're both wonderfully soft and gorgeous. think that's mostly the differences. So that's to say that, like, I would not necessarily, I definitely would not be like, oh, definitely use this yarn or definitely use this yarn. In certain instances, I would pick one or the other. So it's a lot of talking. Okay. And then, so now we're talking about Susan's yarn. I'll talk about it. I'm also knitting on Susan B. Anderson's pattern. What is it called? Christopher Bunny. And it's in her Wisconsin woolen. This is the oatmeal, and then I didn't bring it with me, but there's a green sweater and then striped little leggings in the Laurel colorway. Right. So she offered this kit, and I didn't even think. Just bought it, which is silly. I mean, I definitely had enough yarn. I could have just bought the pattern, but I just pulled that trigger. So the kit, you get the cute little project bag, you get a code for the pattern, you get the safety eyes, which I did not have these safety eyes. You get embroidery floss for the nose, you get a tin of stitch markers, you get the colors you need. And so Susan's stuff is always a pleasure to work with. So there's my bunny so far. Isn't he so cute? I haven't put his nose on because I'm kind of loving him without his nose. I haven't decided yet. But when I saw him, I thought he would be a great gift for somebody that I was making a gift for, and I thought, oh, and so I just snapped him right up. He's very cute. Right. Susan's patterns are always so well written and so enjoyable to work with. You knit the little bunny's head, then you pick up for his ears. She's marked. You have the way her pattern is written, you know exactly where to pick them up. There's no like, is that even? She gives you purl bumps where you're going to be picking up arms and ears and things. So it's a super easy to get something that's going to look like her finished project. So yeah, these safety eyes were a bugger to put in though. Whew. Because they're really, I've never put in safety eyes that were this tiny. And that's another reason I'm glad I've got the kit, because I would have put bigger safety eyes on, and it's so cute with these little tiny ones, right? But my instinct would be to use bigger ones. But these little ones are a bear to get in. Or at least I had trouble with them. But I got them in and they were fine. And Susan offers instructions for all of that linked in the pattern. So yay. Love it too. And I realize I'm like accidentally like a walking advertisement for Brooklyn Tweed and Wisconsin Woolen, but I love both of them. And then let me continue to be a walking advertisement for another Crafty girl. What? Oh, it's right there. Is it Keep It Light? I can't remember the colorway name. So, another Crafty girl who's amazing and wonderful as a human being and a great person who's face to support dyed this colorway in her Strong Sport. So Strong Sport is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 328 yards for 100 grams. And this is the colorway Keep in Flight. So here it is in the ball. It's inspired by Wingspan, the game, the board game, which I love. And here's my hat so far. Right. So this is Flora's Cap by Churchmouse Yarns and Tees. And I totally started on another pattern. I was doing like a woolly worm head that was knit sideways. And it was in garter, and it just did not do the yarn justice. That is the trick with variegated skeins, right? Is like trying to find something that will do this. So normally I would just pick like a plain stockinette, but I don't know, for some reason I wanted texture. So here it is. Oh, right. And right now it's doing this really fun thing where it's just like kind of like striping. But you can see the differences. Like down here I cast on with, I think I cast on with a US 1, yes. So I cast on with a US 1, and you can see how it pulled so differently. And in fact, I was getting this big block of the orange right here. And so I actually did a wrap and turn and went around the other way to try to break it up, because I was afraid I was just going to get like a vertical stripe of that. So I did kind of try to break that up. Not because I don't love that, but just because I wanted it to show up in other places. But as soon as I switched to the US 2, let me just verify that that is in fact, yes, a US 2 2.75 millimeter. As soon as I switched to that, then it started doing this really fun sort of striping thing where I got more integrated color, which I really like. So yay! Excited about that. Look at me with all my like 1x1ing. What's that about? Usually I avoid any sort of knit purl like the plague. I don't know what's going on. Whatever, I'm just gonna ride the wave. So that is super pleasant. So everything I'm knitting on I really love. Yeah. Such a treat. So lucky. So yeah, everything I'm knitting on I really am digging. Gus, whatever. Let me just discuss. Having a cold to the point where I'm like carrying tissue boxes with me everywhere. And a dog whose favorite thing to chew up is tissues. He just gets so much pleasure out of it. Like you can tell he's ecstatic to like rip. It just throws the ripped up pieces in the air with so much joy. You almost feel like a mean, bad person from like not letting him do it. At the same time, it's ridiculous. Oh, God. So anyway, I'm just super lucky. I'm enjoying everything I'm knitting so much. I'm enjoying being in my house. Really eating it up hardcore. I'm enjoying my milk frother. Gosh, this milk frother is amazing. It's cold and it's still okay. It's a little bit too cold. It's still good. Oh my goodness, so much goodness, right? Insanity. Gus, you're the worst. Annie's sitting on my foot. Just too lucky. So thank you so much to everybody. I really appreciate you. If you purchased kitty cats and house coats bags, I am working on them. I do take weekends off. I'm not a weekend worker unless I have to be. So those are definitely, they should be out. Well, they'll definitely be out within the time frame that I said originally, which was the 4 to 6 weeks. There's a big stack of them right there that I'm looking at. There will be an update the first Friday of February. So there'll be a shop update then. It will have Sock Plus. It'll have all my sizes. It'll have Sock Plus, Large Wedge, Sweater, and Aran, and they all involve sheep. There will be a sheep on every bag. And in fact, on many bags, there are sheep knitting. It's very exciting. So that'll happen. And then after that in February, I'm kind of thinking maybe like for Valentine's Day or something. I got some fabrics in to do Aran sweater updates. So this is a great time of year to do Aran bags, which are the bags that are like this size. So I will be doing these bags as well, but they won't be in this update. So this is a big, like this has got a whole sweater, 10 skeins of Brooklyn tweed in it. It's got a hat in it. It's patterns and it's still fine. So I'll be doing some pre-orders. I got several different fabrics in that I really liked. And I think maybe I'll try for Valentine's Day to do just like 4 or 5 different styles of Aran bags for pre-order. And again, they'll be on that 4 to 6 week range, just so I can make sure that those pre-orders stay open, and that we have a good variety of fabrics. So yeah, sorry I didn't announce my shameless self-promotion, but that was it. Shamelessly self-promoting. Okay. But other than that, I think that's all. Oh my goodness. I hope I didn't sound too nasally, but whatever. We'll see what happens. I hope you have a great couple of weeks. I hope you get to stay in if you want to, and if you get to go out if you want to. All the good things I wish for you. Have a great week. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.